Hey guys, Kevin here. I haven't done a video in a while, so I'm doing one right now. And the reason is I've been extremely busy with my new work. And I just wanted to share with you guys some improvements to the lessons. And despite not posting a lot recently, I've been working on improving the lessons and trying to come up with a better training program. And main focus of this video is to help you with your English skills. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to teach you about my training method, and the purpose of teaching you is to give you some things to think about so you can begin to work on your English as well. So a lot of you are getting my training materials for free, either through the Facebook page or my YouTube channel or the blog. Some of you are new, so if you haven't done so, you can visit callcentertrainingtips.com for about 200 plus lessons that I've already published for free, so you can read. I've also accept training offers, so I train people. Right now, the going rate is about 1,500 for about 4-hour session, but that also comes with training materials that I have prepared. So just to give you a background about my training method, why it's better than any training method out there. So in a lot of situations, people who want to work in a call center can't get hired in a call center because their English is bad. And when they realize that, what they try to do is they go to call center training schools, or they go back to their old English books, or they hire teachers to give them tutorials. And I don't believe that works, because if you've finished high school, especially if you finished high school before a couple of years ago, before K-12, chances are you've already had at least 10 years of practice speaking in English. So you have 10 months in a year where you have to go to school every day. If you go to just a regular school, you have 1 hour of English class every day for 10 years. And then if you come from a more expensive school, you might have like at least an hour and a half to about 2 or 3 hours, because some schools offer like speech class, or they have like a difference between like reading and writing class. Some regular schools, they only have one English subject. And if so you finish high school and your English is still bad, and you want to go back and you want to learn the rules of grammar, or you want to learn all these things that you studied before, then chances are you're wasting your time, because that obviously didn't work. That obviously didn't teach you. And when you have applied in a call center and you failed because of your bad English, then chances are trying to do more of what didn't work is not going to help you. Okay? So this video is going to be short. I'll just go through all the approaches that I give, and this will be to give you an idea of what makes my training method different. Okay, if you're thinking of using English books, chances are you're gonna get bored to death. And a lot of so if you're gonna go with your English high school books, it's the same as going through your high school English classes again. If you go to a call center school, chances are you're going to get trained by just like a regular English teacher. So that's not going to improve. Studying the rules of grammar is not going to improve your English. It's going to refresh you on the rules of grammar, but it's not going to make you better English. Same thing goes with hiring teachers. The same thing goes with watching English movies. You watch an English movie, you become more familiar about that English movie, but not really on the English that you're going to use on a professional level. So if you watch Harry Potter, you're gonna learn about the School of Magic. If you watch Lord of the Rings, you're gonna learn about the One Ring and fighting orcs. If you're gonna watch Star Wars, you get the idea. You're gonna learn about the Force, the Empire, Jedi, and the Sith, and all these nice motivational quotes from all those movies. Other than that, you're not going to get any closer to getting hired in a call center. So I'm going to give you my secret formula on how to learn English, and that's really, really simple. So I only have 4 steps. I even wrote it down. It fits in one small page. I'm not sure if you see it from here, but I'm going to read it to you. Number 1, it's introduction. Number 2, it's questions. Number 3, instructions. And number 4 is stories. So those are the only things I teach in my English classes. I'm not gonna teach you about the rules of grammar because you honestly already have 10 years about the rules of grammar and you know it. You might have forgotten most of it, but it's been drilled to you, and whether you like it or not, you're going to remember it when the situation calls for it, okay? So, first part is introduction. Now, introduction is how you introduce yourself. So what that means is you're going to tell your interviewer, you're going to tell the team leader who's going to interview, you're going to tell the company owner, the hiring manager, the HR manager, the client, the customer, who you are. So, hi, my name is Kevin, and how can I help you? Or, hi, my name is Kevin, and I live in Parañaque. I used to work in Makati, and I'd like to apply in a call center because of the nice pay, the reputable companies pay on time, and the benefits are really good, and so on. So the most important thing to think about introductions is how experienced are you at introducing yourself. If you've had a background in selling something, you're probably experienced in introducing your company. You probably have some experience in introducing your products, introducing your services. So the main thing about introductions is identifying the important features and identifying the important benefits. So what is a feature and what's a benefit? A feature is something that your product has, and a benefit is something that the buyer will enjoy. So for example, people do not buy drills. A drill is this device where you make holes, okay? So people don't buy drills, they buy holes. The drill is a feature and the hole is a benefit. So that's one thing to think about. And that's the thing with the introduction. So when I start, I ask people to write down things about themselves, positive things, negative things. I ask them to write about their goals. I ask them to write about their accomplishments. I ask them to write about their failures, their frustrations, and for each of those items, we identify which ones are useful for the interview, which ones are useful for casual introductions, which ones are useful for telling good stories about yourself, which ones are features and which ones are benefits. So when we're done with the introductions, you have a grasp of how well you know yourself. Because the more you know about yourself, the more you're going to be able to sell yourself to your customer effectively. So that's the end of the introduction. The number 2 thing that I discuss would be asking questions. Now, in a lot of call center interviews, a lot of people, they make the mistake of not asking any questions. There's actually a part in the initial interview and in a lot of the other interviews where where the interviewer will ask you, do you have any other questions for me, or do you have any questions for me? And a lot of people, they'll say, no ma'am, no sir, and then the interview ends, and then the interviewer says, okay, we're gonna call you, and guess what, they never call you. So what you're gonna do is you need to figure out what questions. And a big problem that we have growing up in the Philippines, I mean, growing up with the Philippine educational system, I don't know about you, but based on my experience, growing up, the teacher always asks questions, but we are trained to never ask questions. Because if you ask a question in school, the teacher will discuss further and will prolong the lesson. So as a student, you want that free time, that extra 10, extra 15 minutes where you're not doing anything at school. You can chat with your seatmates, you can chat with your crush. And so that's why nobody asks questions in school. The other reason is if you ask questions, maybe you encounter bullies in school and they're gonna call you stupid for asking stupid questions. And that's the mentality here in the Philippines. A lot of people, they're afraid to look stupid, or they're afraid of being the person who makes the class discussion longer. They're afraid of being called a nerd, so they never ask questions. But guess what? If you don't have any questions, you just explain to your interviewer that you are not interested in a job, because asking questions express your interest in the job. So, like for example, if you're buying something, there are two situations. If you're really interested in what you plan to buy, you go to the store and then you pay money and then you take that product home. But if the product is really expensive, let's say it's worth at least a few days worth of your salary, you're gonna ask a lot of questions like, is this good? Does this have a warranty? What if this is broken? Can we get this exchanged? What if this breaks a year from now? Do you have like a service center? You ask all these, like, does this come in a nice color? Do you have different colors? Can you customize this? So yeah, you ask those questions like, what are the defects? What's the condition of this item? Is this brand new? Do you have like secondhand stuff? The more interested you are, the more you ask questions. That's just the first part, because 90% of call center work is about asking questions. Whether you are inbound, outbound, customer service, technical support, or sales, 90% of your job, you're gonna ask questions to your customers. Let me give you an example. If it's a customer service situation, the first thing, the opening spiel is, thank you for calling, let's say, what's the name of the company? Let's say, thank you for calling Jollibee. My name is Kevin. How may I help you? And then your customer is gonna say, I'd like to order something for a delivery, and you're gonna say, okay, may I have your name? So that's another question. May I have your account number? That's another question. May I have your phone number? That's another question. May I have your address? That's another question. What's your order? That's another question. And then after they're done ordering, you're gonna ask anything else that you'd like to order. So that's another question. You're gonna talk about the promo. So we have this promo where you get fries and drinks with your burger. Would you like that instead? That's another question. And so on and so forth. That's an order taking situation. If you're calling for a customer service or a tech support situation, let's say you call Globe. Thank you for calling Globe. My name is Kevin. How may I help you? And they're gonna say, I have a problem with my internet. And what are the usual questions? So first thing is you're gonna apologize. I'm sorry you have problems with your internet. You tell me how you're experiencing the problem. Are you experiencing the problem on your computer, on your mobile phone, on your iPad, and so on? And then you're gonna say, since when have you been having this problem? So that's another question. Have you tried this solution? That's another question. And then you're gonna keep asking questions until you figure out exactly what the problem is. And then you're gonna solve the problem, okay? So that's already mostly questions. That's a thing. In a call center job, 90% of the things that you're gonna do is you're gonna ask questions, okay? In a sales situation, the first thing is you're gonna introduce yourself, so back to number one, and then you're gonna ask them about what product they're using. So if you're selling mobile phones, you're gonna ask, can you tell me about your mobile phone plan? Can you tell me about your cell phone? Do you want to upgrade? What features do you like about it? What features do you not like about it? And so on. So those are questions that you're gonna ask any situation. In an interview, you're gonna ask questions. What's the usual job hunting process here? What's the pay here? What are the benefits of working for this company? Because I don't know. What are the usual work schedules? What's a typical day like? What customers or what clients are you hiring for? What are the traits of successful agents in this company? And so on and so forth. Do you have performance bonuses? How often can I get a raise in this company? So those are how long's the training? Those are questions that are legitimate that you can ask. Asking questions are important. I'm going to give you a lot of sample questions to practice on. And so remember that 90% of call center work is asking questions. And the other important thing about questions is the best way to answer most questions, especially questions that you don't know the answer to, is to ask another question. The best way to make people think about what you're trying to say is to ask questions. So that's it. Ask questions. And you have to practice. If asking questions are 90%, I'm going to give you the other 10%. So the 3 and 4 is the other 10%, okay? So this experience where you have maybe a boss or a family member or a teacher who's bad at giving instructions, he's gonna say something like, pakikuha mo nga yung ganito doon. And he doesn't say exactly what he wants you to get and where exactly. So you have no idea and you get something else, and when you bring it back and it's like, hindi yan, tapos nagalit pa siya sa'yo. And that's a bad way to give instructions. So the more specific your instructions, the more specific you are with the steps, the more specific you are with the details, the easier it is for you to give. The easier it is for the other person to understand your instructions. And most of the time, so you're asking questions to your clients in order to give good instructions. The thing. In a call center, there's a metric called average handle time, and the best way to fix that is by giving more specific questions. More specific instructions. If your instructions are bad, the customer will take longer to understand what you're trying to say. So improving your instructions, improving your skill in giving instructions is a very important part. So So this goes hand in hand with asking questions, okay? So good instructions are very specific, and good instructions are very helpful in getting hired, okay? Another thing is just remember that it should be step by step, and you should be really good at giving instructions. To give you some tips on how to give good instructions, my favorite shortcut to giving good instructions is watching cooking shows on YouTube or watching good cooking shows on TV, because you're gonna say that they're gonna go step by step. So step 1, cut the beef into cubes. Step 2, heat your pan. Get your pan to a medium-high heat, and then put your olive oil on the pan. Slice your garlic into finely slice your garlic or something like that, and then put your garlic in the pan until it's brown. And I'm getting hungry. I'm gonna stop now. Watch cooking shows. Eat while watching cooking shows, because after you watch cooking shows, you're gonna be really hungry. Number 4, stories. This is the last part. The stories are the proof. Okay, so If you go to an interview, they're gonna ask what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, why should we hire you, positive traits, and so on. They're not gonna ask you that way, but they're gonna ask you about like what can you contribute to this company. You're gonna say something good like I'm dedicated, I'm uh, I'm very persistent, I'm very good at explaining things. And then they're gonna ask you for proof. And then they're actually gonna ask you for proof in a way that they're not gonna say, "Oh, you're dedicated. Prove it." They're not gonna say it that way. They're gonna say it in a way that's more subtle. So an example internet would be if you say that you're dedicated to your job or you're really good at your job, they're gonna say, can you tell me about a situation where you have a deadline at work and you also have an important family commitment, and tell me about how you dealt with that situation. So this situation, you're gonna prove to them that work is more important than your family commitment. So that's one part. So if you say you're dedicated, you have to be able to prove that with a story. Another example is you are good at situations where you're under pressure. You're able to work under pressure. That's a word that most people put on their resumes. So if you are, they're gonna say, can you tell me about a situation or a story where you had to take care of a deadline, or and then what was the problem, how did you go through that? So you have that situation. And then if you tell your interviewer, I'm really patient, and then that's another situation. So they're gonna say something like, can you tell me about a situation where you had to deal with a difficult person, or a difficult team member, or a difficult boss, or a difficult family member, and so on. And you're gonna have to tell that story. So the idea is, when we work on your introductions, when you write down a positive trait or a negative trait about yourself, you can just take a note of like which stories you can tell. And then you have to be really effective at telling your stories. You need to have a beginning, you need to have a middle, and you need to have an end. So telling stories is a skill in itself. I have a really good shortcut that I teach my students during our training sessions. So, but this is something that I want you to think about. I want you to think about being able to give your introductions, being able to ask questions, being able to give instructions, and being able to tell stories. And by the end of our training session, what usually ends up happening is we come up with approximately 100 sentences that they will use 90% of the time in almost all the customer service situations, or in almost all of their work situations. And they're gonna get used to saying those things. So people say, I need to work on my pronunciation, I need to work on my grammar, my intonation, and stuff like that. That's not gonna work. That's gonna take too fucking long. So what I usually say is, we're going to come up with 100 sentences that you need to practice. 100 sentences is not long. That's just 3 or 4 pages depending on how long your sentences are. And those sentences are usually, my name is Kevin, I live in Sucat, Parañaque, I used to work in a call center, or I used to work in sales, I enjoy traveling, riding my bike, going to the gym, writing about things that I find interesting, reading about anime, games, martial arts, and all these things that are interesting for me, and so on. So I guess like 20 sentences there would be introduction. 60 sentences will be about interviews, review questions, and call center questions like, thank you for calling, my name is James, how can I help you? Or, thank you for calling, my name is Kevin, how may I help you? and so on. 20 sentences are your stories and instructions, like maybe step one, please unplug your computer. Let's make sure that your computer is turned on. And after we're sure that your computer is turned on, let's just check if there's the internet connection symbol on the upper right corner of your screen. Let's just make sure that that's green. Can you tell me if that's green, and so on. So that's it. That's the 100 sentences. So yeah, by the end we have 3 or 4 pages of things that they can read and come back to and sound like a very professional English speaking call center worker. So when they apply, it'll be a lot easier for the job hunting process. And that's pretty much it. That's what we do. And the best part is we get to finish it with just 4 hours of session with me. But there's a lot of homework. I give out. There's a book that I ask them to read. The book's short. It's like 60 pages long. And then there's like a bunch of questions that they can answer that will help us identify those 100 sentences that they need to practice. And that's pretty much it. I charge 1,500 for those 12 sessions. That's about 100 pesos a session and a little more, so I can pay for the help pay for the internet and stuff like that. Anyway, I hope you've learned a lot from this session, and thank you for if you reach until the end. Thank you for watching the video. If you've been a reader for a while, thank you for supporting. If you enjoy this video, consider giving this a like or a thumbs up. Consider sharing this video with a friend who you think will benefit from watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message either here, down in the comments, on the Facebook page. I prefer that you send me an email. I answer all the emails. I answer all the messages. I'd like your thoughts. If you want some help in the future, just let me know. And thank you for supporting this page. And that's it. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, or whatever time you're watching this. And yeah, I'm just happy I'm able to do this again. And good luck if you're trying to get hired in a call center, if you're trying to pass training, if you're trying to get regularized. If you have questions, just let me know. And yeah, goodbye.